Okay, Jenny, tell us how we're going to build this and pay for it.
Thank you, Richard and Councillor. Just before I get into my presentation, I've organised for Lawrence Hill, the President of Local Government New Zealand, to phone in on speakerphone because I do a lot of work in terms of public and private partnerships and projects around the country. And if it's all right with you, Lawrence just wants to spend 5 minutes on this local government meeting.
Okay, just for I've got a lot of fellow councillors here. For you who don't know, Lawrence Yule is the President of Local Government New Zealand. So, yep, it'd be nice to hear from him. He's also the Mayor of Hastings. So, yep, Mr. Yule is welcome to speak in our chamber.
Thank you. He's coming out. I'm just pulling out.
Well, when you're ready, okay, cool.
He's just pulling him out of the local government workshop.
Okay, that's great. That's great, Jenny. Okay. Tell him to turn on his TV and he can watch himself on webcam while he talks.
Hello everybody.
Hi. How are you, Lawrence? We just said before you got on the phone, if you'd like to turn your computer off, we're on webcam, so not only will we listen to you, you can watch yourself.
Yeah, well, I can't sort of hearing a national council meeting and I've had to slip out and do that, so and talk to you, but that's all right. So I'm not watching myself at the moment.
Okay, well, welcome to our chamber, my friend, and
Yeah, nice to be there.
we'll listen eagerly to you and Jenny have a chat. We're actually going to win it, Lawrence.
where the government allocated 7 million towards it. And my view is that if you're wanting to do things that are that significant in your region and you need to get the government on board, you need to tell them a concept that is of significance nationally. And getting the money for that may well take a year, 18 months, even to get it put into a central government budget. When we did the Opera House upgrade in Hastings, we said to Helen Clark at that stage that we needed money to restore our Opera House. We couldn't do it without the government help. She said, I've got no money, but I'll let me see what I can do. Within about a year, she set up the Significance Projects Fund, for which we got the money out of eventually. Now that's since been shut down. But the point of me giving those examples is if you go to the Prime Minister or some other senior ministers to get money for something of significance, one, they have to understand and accepting that it is of significance for the country. And two, you have to accept that generally there isn't bundles of money just sitting in some budget waiting. They might have to set up a fund or a process or a system, and that can take time. So your project thinking needs to take time as well. Any questions? That it?
Any questions from my fellow councillors while we've got Lawrence on the phone? Okay, well, we're about to get a presentation, Lawrence, from Ms. Giblin to try and hopefully take us on the financial road to recovery, so to speak.
Well, I think that, and the only other thing I would simply add is that you're going to have to, any opportunity to go and get money from all these other places requires an upfront investment in some material, a strategy, a plan, and unless you do that, you haven't something that's consistent, coherent, to include all the partners, you'll sort of fall over the first hurdle. You'll probably find the council is the easiest part, and that will be my experience. Getting the council money is in anything, albeit the financial challenges that everybody has, including themselves, that's still the easiest part. Getting government to agree or getting pub charities or other funders to agree is more difficult. So you need to have a plan, and you commit some money up front to make sure you've got a plan, the appropriate material, all the rest of it is done in a professional way that you can take out and say, this is a partnership approach between three bodies, we would like to do X. And if you don't invest some money in that initial material and effort, then you're probably going to fail.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we've taken that on board, and I would concur with everything you've said there, Lawrence. It's about whenever you're going to build something, you need to put down the correct foundations before you start the building. So I think that's the stage we're at, and we're keen to move forward from there, but we're going to have to spend time making sure that we've got the foundations in place first, I think, is the message you're sending us.
I appreciate that.
So,
Okay, well, I wish you all a happy and safe Christmas, and Jen, all the best. Thank you.
thank you, Lawrence. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Thank you. So I'll just go through my presentation, following on from what Lawrence said, and hopefully it's not going to be too repetitive for you. My understanding from Will is that public-private partnerships is probably something that the council hasn't done a lot of. Is that
Not yet, but we're keen to investigate, and we're all ears.
Great, okay. So basically, the definition of public-private partnership is a cooperative venture between public and the private sector that best meets clearly defined public needs through the appropriate allocation of resources, lists and rewards. There are two types of public-private partnerships. There's the type that you may all know about, which is when central government might decide to build a new prison, and they engage a construction company to come in. The construction company builds the prison, takes on the running of the prison, and then
the local council. So that's been beneficial. It also puts pressure on the project team to do due diligence, and I'm not suggesting that within councils due diligence is not done at all, but I've certainly found when we've gone to central government to ask for funding for a project, their benchmark is very, very high. So they expect to have, very robust feasibility studies done. They expect to have, robust budgets. They expect to have 10-year projections for operating budgets and things like that. So it's certainly the pressure to do your homework is certainly greater. And I guess the other thing with a true partnership is that it does build community cohesion. So if you have corporates or the members of the community putting money into a project, they're more likely to feel part of that project, they're more likely to use the facility once it's completed and feel that they have ownership with it, which I think is very important. There are some disadvantages to PPPs. I could only think of two. There are costs involved when entering into competitive government bid process. So the velodrome is a classic example. There's 10 councils basically putting a bid in for a velodrome. Some will be spending up to $200,000 on their bid. Now only one bid's going to be successful, so take that across the country, that's a lot of money that's going potentially down the tube. So there are costs involved with doing it, and I think we should all be aware of that up front, and you'll be aware of the costs associated with your velodrome bid. I guess the other thing is that if you are going to enter in public-private partnerships, you need to invest a lot of time in relationship management and developing and maintaining partnerships. Gone are the days where you talk to your local bank and ask them to put money into your project and give you $500,000 and you slap B and Z on the side of a building and walk away. That doesn't happen anymore. You have to have ongoing relationship with them. You have to keep them in the loop. You've got to make them feel nurtured and part of your process and your project. I think in the 80s, corporate sponsorship was all about logos and brands, and now corporates are wanting much more than that. So there's a time and resource component that needs to be factored in. There are a number of things that Taupo District Council may need a public-private partnership for. So there's sporting facilities, cultural facilities, libraries, major events and community facilities. And so the work that I'm involved with ranges from doing opera houses, art galleries, netball courts, football facilities, a velodrome I'm doing as well. So it's quite varied. There's money available to upgrade libraries, and there's certainly money available to host big events. You just have to learn how to work out how to package your proposal. The other thing that's important with a public-private partnership is identifying what the split is. And generally, central government talk about a third, a third, a third. So that's a third from central government, a third from local government, and a third from what they term the community. And the community is made up of corporates, gaming trusts, community donations, community trusts, private trusts. So at the beginning of a project, you'd work out what your particular mix, and it would depend on what you would be trying to achieve. So you need to make sure you get the split right. There's also ways in which we need to think about how you might make your public-private partnership work. You need to engage professionals early on, and I'm not talking necessarily just about people that pull that project together, but I don't think you need to get robust financial data done early on. That's very, very important. You can't go to central government and meet with the minister unless you've done your homework. So you need to get some professional advice around that. Identifying a project manager is really important early on as well. They would want to see that was in place. Calculating the funding split, which I talked about in the previous slide, is really important so that the mix is right. Then when you're going out and you're talking to your potential corporates or talking to the government, you need to identify your, common vision and shared goals that you all want to achieve for that project. And you also need to invest time in managing the relationship and maintaining it.